As far as like news this week, there was some drama, which I guess is not a big surprise at
Uh,
this point, but nobody's been banned or exiled. I guess that's a bright side.
well, technically yes, and then undone.
Okay, yeah. Yes, for about like 5 minutes.
Sorry, Goth. Didn't
Other
mean
than
it.
that, though, um, okay. As far as like stuff going on this week, though, other than that, clan-wise, not a whole lot comes to mind, at least from my end. We're still kind of talking on the whole thing a little bit, and I'm kind of mulling over some stuff about some like changes to war bands and stuff. I got some, I brought this up last Fireside and I made some notes. I think my current line of thinking is that we'll probably keep great companies and keep all the current war bands, and there won't be a cap on the number of people. But one of the things we'll go for is to try to have each warband have a specific purpose, or maybe two, like a specific game or something, or two games or something like that, or even a non-game purpose, as long as it's just a purpose that's clear. Um, to try to kind of make them more, I guess, like obvious is the word that comes to mind to like new recruits and everybody else, make them have that specific purpose, and then it'll help people like new recruits decide like which warband they want to go in, because it might become more of a conversation. Like normally you'd go with your recruiter, and I imagine it'll happen most of the time, but we may have newer members who want to transfer or something, and or maybe new recruits recruited on some different game randomly that nobody plays or something like that, and it'll be clearer to them like what each warband's kind of dedicated to. So if they wanted to take their pick, it would be a lot easier for them. And in going with that, probably like I kind of mentioned before, opening up to new warband proposals from people who wanted to make new warbands for purposes that aren't already covered by our current warbands. So we'll probably wind up with more, and I'm not sure exactly. Probably if we did wind up with more, depending on how many, but I'm thinking either A, I would at least temporarily lead a third great company with whatever new warbands, or B, we would just put more warbands into the current great companies if we think that the Jarls could handle that and stuff. But all this is we're still talking about it and all that. And I mean, if anybody has any random thoughts or anything that come up later or whatever, you can feel free to message me or any of the officers too, and they can just bring it up in the all thing too. So yeah, that's kind of the only administrative thing going on. There's a few events kind of brewing. Like we were talking, Manny was talking about raiding in Guild Wars 2 and kind of trying to get Guild Wars 2 more off the ground, as well. And I believe some League of Legends tournaments were discussed too, or people have been mentioning those anyway. But that's kind of all I've got. So I don't know, Manny, if you want to talk about either of those.
Yeah, so as far as that goes, I guess I'll start with the League of Legends tournament, since that's something that concerns quite a few of our what should I say, our player base, our members. That's what I should call it. As far as that goes, Conungamir and I have been talking and working on a couple of things, right? In particular, we are looking at doing a League of Legends 5v5s tournament, right? We're thinking possibly around October 20th, about a month from now, right? Just your standard dealio like we used to do, right? Just kind of bringing that whole thing back. It's not going to be like restricted or anything like that. And we are looking at opening that to, just, well, should I call it the general public? Basically advertising on different places such as, possibly Reddit or, things like that. Great opportunity to recruit people, right? That's always something that you can do, get someone in there for the tournament and then say, hey, we had a blast, maybe come join us, right? Land yourself a couple of recruits. Doesn't get much better than that. as far as Guild Wars 2 goes, because that is something else that was mentioned. To make a rather long story short, we're kind of looking at starting up raids. We have, I believe, 9 people. Is that right, Vest? Correct me if I'm wrong. 9 people, if I recall, looking to start up raids. I'm going to be going and I've got a sort of group DM set up and everything so that I can keep coordinated on that with everyone. We can figure out builds and who's going to be running what. That way we don't show up day 1 with 8 DPS and 1 tank, right? That would be the worst thing known to man. So, if any people are interested in that, right? Please feel free to shoot me a message, right? The more people we have, the merrier, right? It's very easy to gear up for raids. Pretty much, you just have to be level 80, right? It's preferred if you have the expansions, but I'm sure that we can find something for you to run. From just core Guild Wars 2. I do believe you have to have at least Heart of Thorns to start raids, though. Which is okay. Kind of unfortunate because that means we won't be able to get our free players in. However, Heart of Thorns, I'm sure you can pick it up on a discount, possibly even bundled with Path of Fire. So, if you are interested, please feel free to shoot me a message. Right? I'm more than happy to go ahead and get with you on that. And then along with that, I'm looking into possibly running like a sort of quote unquote Guild Wars 2 night, right? Where, all of our people who are new and stuff like that, we can all go ahead and kind of similar to Warframe nights, actually, that Pato runs. We can go ahead, run through level, try to progress, unlock certain things, right? Stuff like that, just so that we can, help actually, get a little bit more of an active player base on Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, I'd probably be happy to participate. And I mean, yeah, like I said, we're just discussing with these war bands. Definitely potential for a Guild Wars 2 war band. And that could either be something that like maybe Kolga's turns into that, for example, or a new one is made. We'll see. And yeah, and I think I'm open to having say like 2 games or something as a warband's main thing. I think would still work.
I think that would be for the best.
Yeah, like as long as the warband can like stay cohesive, like I wouldn't want it to be to the point where it's like, okay, this warband has 20 people, 10 of them play this game A, 10 people play game B, and none of them talk to each other, and the Huskarl has to try to play both. Then I feel like it might not work as well because there should be some more like intermingling, like maybe some of the people in the warband play both and that kind of thing, to try to make it more of a cohesive group. But yeah, 1 or 2 of the Huskarls had asked me about that and said that they think they could make it work, so I'm definitely open to it. Cool. Well, yeah, Guild Wars 2 sounds fun, and getting some league tourneys I think too would be cool. I know there's a couple guys from other servers that either I had casted for their tournaments and or I either cast for their tournaments and or they'd played in our tournaments. Words I was looking for, and they've kind of messaged me every once in a while like, hey, you guys have any more tournaments? So there's definitely some interest out there. And I'm sure we could, talk to some of those guys in their servers, and I, post there or something, that kind of thing. Yeah, all right. Anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up?
I do. So it's just the weekly reminder to sign up for Seeker Odin if you have not yet. And if you have any questions, just please let me know. We have 10 people currently signed up. That's about half of what we hope to have signed up because, the more the merrier, and the more we can, the better time we have with it and more exciting it is. So, as I said, any questions, please direct them to me, and you can check out the announcements, and then maybe Vest, maybe you can give me permissions to just post a new announcement just to, bump it up a bit. Yeah.
Those are rookie numbers. Gotta pump them up.
Hey, so Sydney, where do you sign up?
There is a Google form linked in the announcements, and then I will link it again in a newer announcement. And yeah, it's just like a Google form. There's some questions for you to fill out, and yeah.
All right.
I just gave you permissions to post there again if you need. But I saw Rand pinged me. At that point, we should just transfer members between war bands. Well, I think the thinking is to allow transfers. I mean, yes, that's true. That the list of people who cannot post announcements is shorter than the people who can. It's generally how it's supposed to be. I just made it so I think it's Huskarl and up can post in there, and this is kind of standard. And then I usually will just give anybody else permissions to post in there if they just ask anytime. As far as transfers, yeah. So the thinking is that members can just transfer between warbands. But I think the fact of the matter is that some Huskarls think they can run a warband with 2 games. I assume that's what Rand's talking about, and they play multiple games, and they would like the warband they run to have those multiple games. So I mean, I'm open to it if they think they can make it work. You know, I don't think we necessarily have to have a new warband for every single game. We could have one warband cover 2 games or whatnot. I mean, on the flip side, of course, I'm definitely willing to give anybody who wants to try leading, you know, a new warband a shot. Kind of like, you know, I think I talked about this probably last week, but like used to be in WA, you would propose what they call a rough platoon if you wanted to, you know, start a little group on a new game WA doesn't play, and you know, you'd have to make a little proposal and write about, you know, how you think it would work and everything, and then you'd go. And if it got approved, then you would get your rough platoon. Then you'd try to hopefully recruit enough, make it successful enough that it would become a full-fledged platoon and/or division. So I'm not gonna, I don't think, go to the trouble of calling them rough warbands or something. I'm just gonna call them all warbands. But yeah, is every rank transferable? Rand is asking. Yeah, I would think so. It would depend. I would say Raider and below, certainly. Berserker, most likely, but it would probably depend a little bit because Berserkers usually have like a specific task, for example, and or focus, and maybe Berserkers are assigned certain channels, or say a Huskar already has his Berserker doing, you know, all the stuff that needs to get done in the warband, and then maybe bringing in a new Berserker, I'd have to figure something else out. I imagine Berserker would probably transfer too. I think, yeah, like Rand was saying, Huskarl and up would be a bit of an exception. I mean, you obviously couldn't just transfer to somebody else's warband and be the Huskarl, like, when there's already a Huskarl, but unless a warband didn't have a Huskarl and you wanted to, you know, go lead that one, I guess that would work. But yeah, I think it's definitely going back a little bit more to the old Fleet Empire thing. Only so far as I think it was a given that all the platoons and divisions had to have a specific game. And I think the thinking now is, well, people play lots of different games. You know, Discord is sort of a multi-game platform itself, kind of. So we would just have these warbands, these groups. But I think I've been thinking, and I think a lot of the officers seem to like this idea as well, that giving them specific purposes would be good, and not even necessarily game purposes, like the Soleil was really, you know, talking about, for example, an anime warband even, or you know, a lore one that focuses on like writing stories and stuff, or you could have even like an art one or something. You know, you could have warbands devoted to all these specific purposes, as long as it's just, you know, something that can bind people together, and something where a new recruit can look at the list of warbands and say, oh, you know, I play that, or oh, I'm interested in that. So, you know, that seems like a good spot, or something like that, I think is the goal. Yeah, anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
I guess I should say there's not much to talk about this week.
Oh, are
anyone made it?
Are you getting you memeing for Pato?
It typically works.
You have to say that there's nothing to talk about for people to start
Yeah.
talking. It's true.
Generally, what happens is somebody just brings up like makes a joke or a meme or something, and that just leads into like a 30-minute conversation. I think that's
Weeaboo
usually.
band.
No, absolutely not.
Weeaboo band.
That is-
Oh my gosh, what?
We're
Out of
legit gonna lose
all-
all of our active members from everywhere.
Out of
man.
I
all
know.
of the horrible ideas that have been thought up in the history of the human race, Weeaboo Band is probably the fucking
I'm
worst.
gonna be honest.
Don't lie, Manigotti. You would 100% start a controversy.
Absolutely not. I would 100% start a crusade against it.
Honestly, if there was a Weeboo band, like no one bullies them harder than themselves. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure about the
So Deus
an
Volt that
internal
one.
conflict there.
Deus Volt, all I gotta say.
All right. Well,
Not
that was
always
nice
dominant.
and productive. Does anybody have any actual point? I mean,
Oh, yeah, I do actually.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I know I announced Thursdays, but no one really did it. We have Counter-Strike on Thursdays. If anyone wants to play, let me know.
Would that be before or after Fireside?
It'll usually be after.
But I thought you were wanting to do raid.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks, Manny, for covering over my time slot. That's cool. Thanks, Obama.
Well, the fact of the matter is, as far as raids go, tonight, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. I'll say that right now, up front. Raids will not be happening tonight. I severely underestimated the amount of preparation that I actually have to put into this.
Let's
and
do it like
has-
divorced parents. You get
that
1
is
week,
my
I get the
fault.
next week.
Okay, listen here, you little shit.
Divorce
As far as what that goes, it really depends. I'm gonna have to go ahead and I'm gonna have to sit there and actually discuss with everyone that's going to be raiding, what days we actually want to do that, right? The last thing that I'd want to do is cover another group's time slot. But along with that, we do have a fair bit of preparation to do. So raids, I mean, that's
Well, I mean,
unfortunately that ain't gonna be
To
happening.
be
tonight.
brutally
what I'm
honest,
thinking
who
of,
wants
like-
to play like CS:GO for more than 2 hours?
A game, it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, definitely. What you do is you sit down and play like 6 hours of CS. That's
Yeah.
what you do.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, that's what I'm
considering that
thinking.
there are some of us out there who can tolerate playing League of Legends for 5 or 6 hours at a fucking time without losing our will to
Well,
live.
Rand.
CS:GO is a different monster.
CSGO is a great game.
If you're
Anyways,
bad.
so what I'm thinking, Manny, okay? So hear me out, okay? So you know how it takes a while for us to prepare for raids?
Yeah, it'll
We
probably
literally could switch off every week. So that way it gives us more time to switch out and think of what raid we want to do and what we want to prepare for it if we need someone to prepare for something different in case someone drops.
There's one major issue that I would have with that. That being that the raid reset is weekly, not bi-weekly. And the main reason for raiding is to get legendary armor, right? Because it's stat swappable and the skins are fucking awesome unless you wear medium armor, at which point you're probably exceptionally disappointed.
Yeah, I really am.
Yeah, I am too. Don't worry, it hurts. But simply put, we're going to be needing to, actually raid on, a consistent basis in order to get people that legendary armor. I don't necessarily believe that alternating between, the Thursdays is going to be the best bet, particularly since Thursday is a work night for a lot of people. I'd much rather do something on a weekend. For instance, Saturday nights prior to Sunday, right?
Saturday night's Monster
Or
Hunter night.
something like that. Oh yeah, fuck.
And game night.
Yeah.
And game night. Is there
Let's go
anything
to
that
that Friday
happens
nights.
regularly on a Friday night?
Yeah, game night is usually on Friday night.
Oh, board game night, you mean?
Well,
the
board
last
game night.
2 weeks we haven't really gotten much attendance. And I'm not even gonna be free tomorrow, so.
At the
Oh,
same
no.
time, not to sound like rude to anyone or anything, but how many people play Guild Wars 2 and attend game night at the same time?
You're talking about board game night or WA game night?
Board game night. Board game
Okay.
night.
I'm gonna
I
be honest, I
would
forgot board game
imagine-
night was a thing.
I would imagine that it's probably not that big of a deal. WA as a whole doesn't have too many consistent Guild Wars players in it right now. Something that I'm very much hoping to change.
Yeah, it's
But,
definitely possible to have multiple events at the same time. We can do, and there's also
Yeah.
there's a few other open slots. Like there's literally nothing on Sundays right now. Tuesdays there's technically nothing. There's the boards of review, so if you're a Huskarl, you have to do that. But you could even do
Oof.
that. You have from
Rip night.
currently Sunday night until Tuesday night. The Huskarls have like a 48-hour period to do them, so they don't necessarily have to procrastinate until the last minute. So there's
So don't
Yeah, the big
procrastinate
thing
night.
with
We'll do
that-
it Tuesdays.
The big thing with that is, it's just that thinking logistically, right, about, actually getting people together. I'm just concerned about whether or not everyone's going to be available on those evenings, just because, people have jobs, right? Shit like that. It's very much possible that Tuesday night would be good though, or Sunday night even. So I'll definitely be looking into those. I'll make sure to go ahead and in that group DM,
Make a Google document with time zones and then hand them out to every person you're trying to get in the raid.
yeah, I'll probably just go ahead and throw up a spreadsheet, and then we'll see what's going on with that.
good old spreadsheets.
Oh, hey, you know what? Spreadsheets, I fucking love them. They help me organize information, even if I'm not even, properly filling it out right. It's simple. It's just a great way to organize things and categorize. So I'm not gonna fucking complain. Fact of the matter is, someone made Excel.
Oh, so if we're finished with that, I do have one topic that I'd like to discuss, if we're allowed to discuss a certain one, something that we've been talking about in the all thing, future of companies. Are we allowed to do that?
Sure.
All right. So in all thing, we've been talking about the validity, or however you say that word, of our great companies, and if they're worth keeping around or not. Now, there's been actually like a lot of division. Some people think that we should just get rid of them. Some people think that we should keep them. I, for one, think that we should keep our great companies. And I was kind of wondering what our other people thought who are not in the all thing. If we can go down the list of lines or of the chat channel. I cannot think right now. We want to go down the list of people in the voice hall of who would like to say if they want the great companies to stick around or not. Is that something we could do?
We could. I mean, I actually said at the beginning of Fireside that my thinking was to keep them around, and that seemed to be the majority opinion in the all thing as well.
Was it okay? Because I remember looking through the all thing, and I still saw like a lot of like counter argument to not keeping them.
Well, I think there's one or two that think they don't provide a lot in terms of they're not really can't find the right word, but they're not really substantial as far as they're basically just a framework to fit the warbands into, and they're a framework to fit the positions of Jarl, Herseer, and Thane into. And I get that, but it seems like a lot of people like them, and frankly, that's the goal of them, is for people to care about them. So I don't think it's necessarily harmful to keep them around if people are attached to them.
What do we think about shared roll calls?
Yeah.
So putting aside the great company question, but combining roll calls?
I don't see a reason to keep them separate, and I also don't see a reason to combine them. I guess it just seems like it doesn't really matter to me.
I can see where you're coming from. So, and like I agree to a certain amount, but I guess I'd want to hear what people think.
Right.
I think either combining them or leaving them as two is fine. Really, their purpose is twofold. First, it's to help us keep track of who the active members are. Obviously, it's a requirement to be a part of WA to post in the roll call, but it also is a morale boost in that like other members see people posting and they're like, oh, hey, I belong to something, like this is kind of cool. I feel like dividing them, like we had mentioned, into individual warband roll calls might not produce that same result if you have a lot of people who are not super active. So I like keeping them large. It doesn't really matter whether there's one or two because both great companies have lots of people in them who post in the roll call.
Yeah, and having 6 different roll calls plus more if we were to have more war bands would get super confusing for the people
Yeah,
who
I'm
don't know.
completely against warband specific roll calls.
Yeah, I wouldn't like warband specific, but oh no, one thing I like about Great Company roll call, being 2 separate roll calls, is that I can look through it, and I've also on occasion like members of the Sindar, or like I've seen them like not post, and then like it's easy for me to tell that if I just like scroll through it all, because I actually scroll through it all and look at who all posted, or I'll see somebody
So
else
are
who might
you-
not be connected to me, and I'll just like remind them, hey, roll call's happening. I've done this a few times. I feel like, you know, it might, in a way, it'd be easier if in a combined roll call, because then I'd see everybody. But then, I don't know, it's a lot more to scroll through. To be
So you're
honest.
saying too many people could be an issue as well?
Too many people in one roll call, honestly, I could see being an issue, especially for people who like to, watch as many backs as they can. Because I would still scroll through it and then do that stuff and then take up a lot of time. Just because I like watching people's backs, and I don't know.
It's a potential 100 people each like 2 weeks posting in the same roll call.
Yeah, that's a lot.
See, for me, I think combining them, yeah, it'd be real nice and simple. It would turn from like each person having to, moderate each one, make sure each one is having the, correct information, opposed to just having it, all in one place. And that's what, has said is you can still use the search function if you want to look for anyone
Yeah.
specific. You can do that, but my favorite saying is you don't know what you don't know. So I'm not going to know like who to look for in the roll calls if I need to find someone specific, like before board of reviews or anything like that.
I see what you're saying, and other people might not see what you're saying, but I understand. Because of my like, that's something that I kind of
Extreme towering intellect.
know, but because like an issue we have is people like get recruited and then rosters don't get updated. So like there could be people in our great companies and we don't even realize it because we've never even read their name. So how are we supposed to know this person exists if no one's reported that they exist? I mean, I know it gets posted in the recruits channel, but you check that once and then you can forget about it pretty easily.
Yeah.
Did you guys like create your own language between Jarls? Jarl speak? Is that how you understood them?
We have it in text form as well.
I was gonna
I
say
like that.
something actually, but I went off on that tangent.
Well, you did say something. You gonna say something
Yeah,
else?
I mean unrelated.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, I remember now. Okay, so something else we were talking about in the all thing was removing channels that are named after warbands and great companies, and then replacing them with channels that are named after topics. Since we want warbands to have like a purpose or a focus. So, for example, Oon's Favored would be like Warframe, of course. Instead of having a channel called Oon's Favored, we'd have a channel called Warframe. And then if there's multiple warbands dedicated to Warframe at some point in the future, they would share that channel.
So I think personally, I think we can get away with not having great company channels. I think those are something that don't see a lot of use unless like I need to ping people specifically to everyone, so the people who can ignore it, to post in their roll calls. So I don't do that very often. Lesson learned. I'll just say it, but again, it's just white channel, pretty hard or pretty easy to just not read it unless you're getting a specific notification. But that's about the only use mine is seeing right now. But of course, y'all know that. So I think we can get away with not having great company channels. But I do think that we should keep warband channels, so that our warbands have, if we want to keep, promoting cohesion, and if we're going to start going the direction of game-specific warband channels or game-specific warbands, then they're going to need their own warband, because they're the ones who are playing with each other the most in idea or on paper.
Okay, so quick aside, something that's relevant to this. We were talking about lowering the amount of people allowed in a warband to like less than or 10 at the max, including the leader. And the reasoning behind this was so that first of all, there's less work for officers to handle. That's one reason. Another is having fewer people in a group together is better for cohesion and like relationships, I guess. Because right now we have warbands with like 20 people. A lot of them are inactive, of course, but 20 people, it's pretty much impossible for a Huskarl to like be on really good friendly terms with 20 people.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
So the reason this is relevant is because if we were to have membership of 10 or less, then we wouldn't need warband channels in theory, because you could have a group DM, because the maximum amount of people in a group DM is 10 people. Just something to consider, I guess.
So for that one guy, that 11th guy who's going to be excluded,
No,
how's he going to feel?
Well, I mean, he's not in the warband.
Well, clearly.
That does pose a problem that they are like, limited to only 10 people.
I mean, what if you recruit like 3 people?
Oh.
If that would happen, then what you would do?
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, my intention would be that whoever's second in command of that warband, presumably a berserker, but not always, they would just split the warband in two, and then that person would become an acting Huskarl, not a Huskarl, but an acting Huskarl until the warband is established, and that'd be a really organic and natural way for us to like double our warbands.
So like the recruiter would have to take his recruits into the other one.
I'd still say that the
stick
Huskarl of
together.
the original warband would have like a pretty close working relationship with the new one until it's up and running. But
I'm talking about the recruits though.
yeah, so I'm saying like it's okay if people get split off into their own warband even when they're new, because they're still going to be taken care of.
Okay. That's a really good idea. That's a really good way to train up.
Yeah, that's an amazing idea.
I really like that. Let's do that.
I'm okay with this idea. I'm still on Rand's side about the channels. I voiced it already in All Thing. I like having my own warband channel, and if there was ever like 2 Warframe warbands, sure it'd be a little weird the way we have it set up now, but I still like having that connection with my other members. Sure, it's not used all that much. I don't know how used the other ones are for the other warbands, but I do use it decently.
So let me connect like what I've been saying together a little bit. Let's say that Un's Favored has 20 people right now, and then if we implemented this change, it's split into 2 warbands. If we were to remove an Un's Favored text channel and replace it with a Warframe channel, they could both pretty naturally share that channel dedicated to that topic, and then Un's Favored could have their dedicated group discussion like in DMs. Something else that I want to bring up that's related to this is I think people should be able to like request pretty much any channel within reason for their own use with a group of people. Like let's say there's a group in the Warframe players that's like super competitive PvP wise, and they want a channel to just talk about that specific thing. They should just be able to like approach an officer and say, can we get this channel made? We want these people to be able to speak in it. It should be visible to everyone, but only these people can talk in it. And then if anyone wants to join in, they can approach whoever's in charge of that initiative and just get added to the group of people allowed to speak. And the reason this is an issue is because Not Listening has mentioned in the past that there's like groups of competitive players in the clan who don't really have a good place to talk about their like what they're focused on, because you can't really talk in the meat hall without it getting drowned out, and you don't really want to talk in the warband channel if you don't share warband with some of the people you're playing with. So it's a little bit awkward how we have it right now.
Well, we could always repurpose or create a warband specifically dedicated to competitive activities on a specific game and put all those people in it.
definitely that's something that I think would happen at some point. But I guess I'm looking for a stopgap measure because let's say we have like 3 or 4 people that are playing competitive CS:GO, for example. They could go off and make their own warband, but maybe no one's ready to lead that kind of thing.
So you could have some temporary channels up, and just rename them and re-roll them as needed. Grab an officer and just say, okay, who do you need and what do you want to call it? And we could just clean those up, weekly or periodically as needed.
My fear with removing warband channels and creating game-specific channels is that it feels like that's de-emphasizing the importance of the warbands themselves. And if we're relying on group DMs, there's really no way to know those are happening. I mean, we can just say, like, talk to the Husker, like, are group DMs happening? Yeah. But, I mean, there's no way for any officers to be involved in those whatsoever, the way we are in all of the warband channels. And also, like, if we had warbands that are devoted to, say, like 2 games or something like that, then they're kind of like using the different things. I don't know. Like I feel like it has pros because, like, what if somebody is not in the Guild Wars 2 platoon and they want to play Guild Wars 2? And it's like, well, are they going to be in the chat? One thought I did have, which is sort of connected, is whether or not all of the Warband and Great Company channels should be visible to everyone. And the reason I thought of that is just because years and years back, divisions and platoons were on the forums, each other on subforum, and anybody could see them and anybody could post in them. And the only fear would be, what if people post in the wrong roll call? But I think if people can see all of the warbands and all of the great companies, perhaps they will have a better idea of which one they're in, because they'll get used to clicking on that one, for example, and knowing where it stands. And if people could see all of the warbands Great Company channels, then people who all play the same game could talk about that in a given warband channel if that warband is dedicated to that game. So it could help solve that problem.
Yeah, I think that with the direction we're wanting to head with game-specific warbands, that those warbands channels will start as de facto like game-specific channels. But it does exclude, like he said, the people who do not play that game. So I think overall, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Yeah, like my... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The exclusion of people who aren't in your warbands can't talk about your competitiveness.
Well, I really think I think allowing everyone to see all of the warband channels would help with that, because, you know, for example, make it so everyone in WA can see Unsfavored. Now, the downside there is when you look at the member list on the side, you see everybody, and you're like, well, who's an Unsfavored? But the benefit is, if I'm not in Unsfavored and I play Warframe or something else that everyone there plays, I would have access to their channel.
So I'd like to add on. I'm still processing what Vess is suggesting, but no, I think for Mjolnir's Chosen in particular, I've been trying to do meetings more often. Rod and I are working on figuring out a good time. We just released a Google form to figure that out, but you know, we're kind of a diverse warband in what we play. Some of us are League only. Some of us are StarCraft. Some of us do tabletop sim. Some of us do SWOTOR. So like we're really like branched out warband. So we're one of those warbands that honestly would suffer from losing our channel and having a game specific one, because everybody would just be all in different places. To be honest, I think warband channels being visible isn't interesting to everybody. Is an interesting idea. Just I don't know, the member list I find kind of helpful. It kind of helps me keep track a little bit. But
just a quick interruption. Sorry, Anario, but
go ahead.
it's how I make sure that the all the review and the roster are done properly is through that list. So
yeah,
I would hate to lose that.
Yeah. Like, No, it's the best way to make sure no recruits like fall through the cracks, you know? Because like somebody might post in roll call and they don't know what warband they are because there's 100 people in every warband and they have no idea which one's theirs. So I don't know. That could get messy. Some people might fall through the cracks. That's the problem I see with it. If we do that, we'll have to figure out some way to simplify it, I guess.
Wait. Randy Facility will save us. Here's what we can do. All right. Okay, everyone go down. Look at Stalwart. All right. You see that place? Barren. Now, what if we did this? All right. So we already have channels that are hidden unless you have certain tags, correct, Bestburger?
Yeah.
So what if having the player or the game specific tag allowed you access to see that game specific channel down in Stalwart?
It's an option. It would sort of create this thing of, if I want to talk about Warframe, do I talk about it in the Warframe channel or in the Unsfavored channel?
Well, the Unsfavored, I know everybody in Unsfavored plays that game, but Unsfavored is just the Warband, and the Warframe channel is for Warframe. There's other business to do in the Warframe, in the Unsfavored, like post rosters stuff.
Well, most of the conversation that goes on in there is about the game. I think that the Warband channels would probably be killed off, in effect, by creating game-specific channels for the games they play.
I mean, our Warband channel is pretty much just all business in there. Most of the time, there's some other chatting going on, but it's mostly all just business in the Mjolnir's Chosen.
Even if I'm against game-specific channels replacing Warband channels, I don't think we can have both. Even if we go through with it full, because again, too many channels. You're splitting. Vest is right. We're going to be killing off.
I agree 100%. Just throwing it out there.
I think the tricky thing is that Unsfavored, I think, is probably one of the only warbands that I know of that is like mainly only one game. Like every other warband I know of branches out at least a little bit.
We're two games now, but
oh yeah,
moving up.
Yeah, Monster Hunter is our other game now.
Nice.
Hey, I mean that means that they've doubled the amount of games that they're in. So.
Yeah, no, that's
100% more. Big gains.
Yeah, I don't know, like.
I really thought I was onto something there, boys. My bad.
It's worth a try. I think the problem that we have to tackle in essence is, let's say I'm like a random scout in some warband, and let's say I'm in a warband that plays mostly StarCraft, and then all of a sudden I download Warframe, for example, and I kind of want to try it. How do I get involved with WA in Warframe? Because I can't see the Unsfavored channel. So.
Well, you could make if you made the Warframe chat, they could just chat there.
Right. So that's one solution. Another solution would be making everyone see Unsfavored. Downside to that, then the member list is not useful for the Huskarls and stuff, and so yeah. But I think essentially that's what we're trying to solve is how do we let people who aren't in a warband participate in a game essentially. I mean, they could just say, okay, I know this guy's in charge of the warband for that game, so I'll ping him or something. I mean, that kind of works.
I think that one way that it might be able to be worked out is, because that brings the same issue before. That still kills the warband chat. Yeah, so never mind. There's no real easy solution to this problem. I mean,
you either rip off the Band-Aid and you switch it all together and get rid of the old ones, or just don't do anything, because it's like it's just another way to divide. I think that's the way I look at it, and that might be less work, or that might seem like a good idea. But when people come in and they want to play Warframe, or you recruit someone, I mean, people would just have to be a lot more diligent with new recruits, because everyone that's active will kind of know. You can do announcements and stuff. That's all great. But people will come in that are new, or if you're looking to look for those people, but that's not a tag that you have, or however we do it, it would cause dissension because those people, even though they're active and on, would be in some hidden channel somewhere or in some channel somewhere. And then if you're not going in there to play that game, it's kind of like, well, why are you there? And it's already half like that already. So I don't know. I feel like it would just be causing a little bit more of a rift that's unneeded, but maybe there is a different way to do this to make it all work. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
One option, and some of the warbands kind of already do this. Some of the warbands have talked about having warband meetings. Some of them, for example, Unsfavored has Warframe Night. We could, for example, require warbands to host some kind of event on a regular basis. And that event would be open to the public, so if anybody who isn't in that warband wants to hang out with them or try any of their games, then that's the opportunity that everybody knows about. It's on the calendar for them to jump in and interact with that warband. Maybe they attend a couple, they really like it, and they wind up transferring to that warband. Is one option.
That's a great idea. I know we've already been doing that. We've been hosting StarCraft Night. Granted, that's been server wide, but Anarin's been doing a really good job of getting us together. I know we meet regularly as a group to see what's going on, what are we working on, things like that, and getting everyone on board with that. All the Huskarls we could easily get that ball rolling, I think, and just having like maybe one bi-weekly get together where people can pop in and see what's going on, and then you can talk about the games you're wanting to play or pick one specific game. Definitely bring people together. I've enjoyed the time we've had playing, and obviously that would be open to people outside of the warband. I would hope anyways, just because you're outside of the warband, I would still want people to come play if they wanted to. In fact, we had StarCraft Night recently, and it was an absolute shit show because we had too many people. We had 12 people. We couldn't figure out maps, and it ended up being like, it was crazy.
It ended up being fun. The problem was we just didn't expect as big a turnout as
Not at all.
It was 12 people. I was amazed. And
Yeah,
really
and that's
happy
great.
about it.
That's great, but everyone was on different pages. That was the other thing. So another thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to warband get-togethers, I think there should be a leader of the warband get-together, and then everyone should just be okay with what we're doing that night. Because if you're not okay, just leave peacefully. Because there were a lot of people. It caused a lot of rudeness. I'll be honest, the StarCraft thing, because some people were getting made fun of because they didn't have push to talk, or some people were getting flack because we weren't starting fast enough, and even I was getting a little frustrated because it was taking forever to get the map going. And it's just like, we all need to be patient. We all need to show up ready to have some fun and not to have an hour or two to hang out, I think, and just letting the leader lead it rather than everyone coming up with their own ideas. Because it's like, you're not going to show up to someone's birthday party and be like, why'd you get a piñata? Why didn't you get a clown? That's ridiculous. I'm leaving. You know what I mean? It's like, that's so rude. And that's basically what happened. So hopefully we can get away from doing that as well and make it like a leader type deal where everyone's just following what's happening.
If I may, Goth, just do what I do. I post what we're going to be doing ahead of time. People show up because they want to do that event, and people who don't want to do that, they don't show up. That's granted. I do have smaller groups for my events than 12 people, but
that's the
always.
ticket.
I'm always open to suggestions. I always tell people I'm open to suggestions. What do you want to do next? If there's no ideas, then I bring up something, and we do that. I do try to keep control of it. I'm not all that strict. People are laughing and doing stupid shit and figuring stuff out. But I do try to, it's 15 past 8. We should probably get started. I do try to keep that going. I am, the person hosting. I am the Huskarl for this game in the most official manner possible. So just do what I do. Plan it ahead of time. Post it ahead of time.
Yeah.
People know that Monday night is Warframe night, but we do have specific goals for each night that I post ahead of time.
And I think that's where the disconnect is we all planned it and everything, but I think next time we do any sort of game night or something, the time we start, and what we're going to be doing and how long it might take should all be a predetermining factor, because that night we were trying to find a map and everything. So maybe definitely putting in a little bit more time before the warband meets. You know, it's definitely going to be a little bit more work for the Huskarls. I know I'm willing to help in Arian if you need help with any of those things in the future. You know, planning a map that we're going to play, or a host of maps, or maybe doing a mini tournament or something. But having it all pre-planned would definitely be huge. Not just saying, let's all go play Monster Hunter tonight. You know, instead of being like, let's go grind this monster tonight because that's our goal. And then everyone knows what you're doing and it's not a shit show to get it together. So definitely good feedback. I appreciate that, Potato.
No worries.
Well, and I can even add a little thing in the handbook, because I'll probably make a little entry about warband events if it's made it so, if I make it so every warband has to host some kind of public thing, just so that, you know, we have that balance of their warband chat is still just that warband, so it has all the benefits of that, but there's also that accessibility of anybody else who wants to try and play the game and you know, hang out with the warband. I can add something that, for example, the highest ranking member of the hosting warband is just kind of the leader for the event, so, you know, what they say goes.
Yeah, that'd be huge. And we could do like a cheesy, like, fortnightly Fortnite get together. Like every 2 weeks we do Fortnite. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But like,
I was gonna say I'll be.
I actually hate
leaving
Fortnite.
WA.
I actually hate Fortnite. I'm kidding. Don't crucify me, please.
I will 100% leave WA if we ever have a Fortnite night.
Oh boy.
No, I definitely
Put it on the calendar.
There's a few poor guys that really genuinely enjoy Fortnite that are just kind of cowering in the corner, like, oh.
They're not
Old
saying
man.
anything.
Hey,
Don't worry, we still respect you as human beings. We just don't respect your choices.
I'll say this right now. I'm not big on Fortnite, but I did enjoy playing it with Fold. So, you know, it's the company that you keep that makes the game fun.
100%. Always.
Of course, only fucking memeing around. I don't want to be that guy to go ahead and, you know, make everyone all upset.
But before we go off track with this, and just a bit of an addition to what I was saying, if you addressing anyone that may want to host any event in the future, games, whatever, just keep in mind the first one may be a huge success. It may be a huge flop. Keep going. My first Warframe night was like 3 people. I was very depressed. Just keep going. It's gonna get successful if you just keep hammering at it.
Yeah, and then you're gonna weed out
it
the
only
people
gets
who are.
successful if you recruit people on that game who actually want to play that game.
Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah,
But you know, people aren't even going to know you're playing that game if you don't keep posting about it. I will admit I'm slightly annoying to some people with my pings. They've said it before. I keep it up because people actually show up to my events. I forget a ping and they're like, what's going on?
Where's my
That's
ping?
cool though. That's kind of what if we can get, you know, let's say we continue StarCraft night and we get 6 to 8 people that come consistently. Yeah, 12 was a big one. That's great. And we'll plan for what we're going to do next time with 12. I mean, someone had a really good idea of just doing 6v6. I was even thinking of doing a bracketed, like if 12 people show up, we could do a bracketed 2v2, v2v2 and just have it break down. Something like that. You know, but definitely have a plan and then a backup plan depending on how many people come. You know what I mean? Or have a plan for how many people could come. If it ends up being 20, then yeah, I mean, you don't plan for that, but that would be a little crazy. You know, we probably have to split people off and have them do their own thing. And, you know, but it's been nice to see, because honestly, a month or 2 ago, there wasn't a lot of people getting together playing the same games. It was maybe 3-4 people. I know, you know, Drumbuffer, you had the best turnout consistently at like 5 or 6 people playing Warframe, and I was a little envious of that. So I'm glad we've been trying to do the StarCraft thing, and I totally agree with the consistency thing. Doing it once a week or every other week consistently, regardless of who shows up, and having the Huskarl or the leader be there and wait for an hour or 2. And just doing the time will build that little event, you know, and that'll be something that people will look forward to every week. And that's really when you start to develop relationships, is when, you know, you're spending time with the same people every week, getting to know them, enjoying their time, you know, and people will be more open to trying different things then, and then it doesn't become so much about them. So it'll be good overall.
It's also a great tool for recruiting when someone's recruiting, and so it's like We do have a StarCraft night every week or every other week, and it's consistent. You know it's going to happen. It's good for recruitment.
I did just want to throw out something that had been floating around my mind that I forgot to mention is my thinking with making warbands have a specific purpose or a specific game or two. You wouldn't actually be required to play that game to join the warband. It would just like be logical. So for example, with Mjolnirs, like you guys were saying, how they play a couple different games, those people wouldn't have to like they wouldn't be kicked out or something like that. If they still like being in that warband and hanging out with those people, I mean, they can totally stay.
Yeah. That's cool, because I know we were talking about that, and I was a little worried, because if we go game specific, it is going to cause clicks, and I like that people from every warband are getting together. I think if we just keep up doing events like all of us are older, you know what I mean? Everyone here, there are a couple youngins, but most of the clan is over 18, and we all work, we all have different schedules, so those events are something we can plan for. You know what I mean? And that's what's really cool about them. It's like you have that one thing to look forward to with your group. Right now, there isn't much of that beyond the StarCraft thing for me, so I just come on when I have time, and there aren't a lot of people on, so I hop between channels, see how everyone's doing, make sure everything's good, do my thing, and leave. But I've been having fun with Warship Night with Kuzi, and I got into that game. That was a new game I tried out. I had fun with that. So I'm trying other games that I necessarily wouldn't like, and I hope that everyone else would try to inspire people to try their games more often, because it's been nice spending time with different people and playing different games and all that stuff. And I'm looking forward to I definitely really want some more League play, though. I love playing League with people, and I feel like I only see you guys playing in the morning. I don't know what we can do about League night once a week, but I'm free after like 8:30 p.m. almost every night Eastern, and I'd love to start playing some. I know it's really hard to get 10 people together for fives, but I love playing League of Legends against other people and just dumping on people and going 10-0 as Nocturne and just like slamming, the back line. I miss that. I don't like playing it alone anymore. I like playing it with friends. So maybe we can get a League thing going. I know that Vest, you guys, I see you playing it a lot. I don't know who else plays it a lot, but I'd love to get into it. That little 1v1 tournament was really cool. I'm the champion, by the way, just saying.
Well, it sounds like Manny and Khan were looking at getting some more League tournaments up. I know he had talked to Eudor and myself about casting. We both said we'd be happy to do casting for those. So,
sweet.
Yeah, I think those will be happening, and yeah, that should be cool.
Whatever I can do to get that ball rolling, because I want to play some competitive League. Not going crazy, but I want to get like a team going where I can practice with them and get some team comps and some picks and bans. You know what I mean? Like make it real legit. That'd be super fun for me.
I'd love to be on a competitive league. I'm always first in line whenever somebody brings up a ranked team, but it really needs that one person to lead it who is just going to put in a lot of time and effort, and it's really not easy. And I've seen a few other guys that were kind of like, oh, I think ranked team would be pretty cool, and they kind of started, and then it just gets really tough, to find the people, get everyone to show up. It becomes pretty difficult, and I think myself, I don't think I would run it myself, but I'd love to participate in one if anybody want to do that as well.
I'd definitely be willing to start up a League thing, for sure, as long as I can get some backup from a couple people. Like maybe you can at least help me out, Vest. I can send you lists of players. And Rocker, so it looks like Rocker's already posting to try to get something going tonight later. So I'm sorry to take over the thing about League, but it's been frustrating me because I started with this clan because of League with Ulf. And ever since I started, I've played everything else but League. And I'm cool with that, but like I want to get League going. I miss playing that game with friends. I really do. Definitely want to do that. Even if we get like 3v3s, I mean, something like a 3v3 tournament would be cool, and you wouldn't have to have such a big turnout. And I like 3v3s. I know not everyone does, but the 1v1 thing was cool, but I want to get back into 5s or 3s and get something going for sure. So I don't know how many people play, but maybe people who don't play normally can try it again, because I know Narian, you hate it, but it would be cool to have my Huskarl there trying to play it again. We can teach you, just like I'd be willing to do custom games if you wanted me to. But I kind of want to get more people into it, and we could easily teach people to play, and It's super fun. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Rocker and Vest. That would be cool if we could maybe we'll have a chat sometime today or tomorrow about that. And come up with a list of at least post an announcement, get some names, put some names on a list, and all have a conversation about where your skill levels are at and do some, see what people play and what people main. It's definitely going to be some work for sure because we don't want it to be unbalanced, but I think regardless, it's going to be a little unbalanced. We can do it. That'll be fun. I digress.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And I'm sure we will wind up with a league warband eventually, whether it will be one of the current ones or a new one made. I think that seems pretty likely. But even before that, we can definitely, I think a League of Legends night would probably see some pretty good activity.
Yeah.
Well.
And so, like, before I got here in February, I was actually in a draft league, or just like in a Discord, so I know how they can run, and I could probably get us back into it if we can get a team going.
Sweet. Yeah, maybe we'll chat about that. Do you guys have a few minutes after? We can just for 5 minutes talk about it because I have a couple quick ideas.
I should, yeah. Actually, we should probably wind up the Fireside itself since we're just over an hour right now. So does anybody have anything else they want to throw out before we turn off the stream?
Yeah, real quick, Vest.
Sure.
I mentioned it in All Things. I do really want to pick up, I do plan on picking up the movie night because I know there was some interest there. I figured it out. I'm pretty sure I could host it. Now, what was discussed earlier kind of threw a wrench in my plans because the best time that was suggested in the All Thing was Thursdays after the Fireside, and from what everyone was talking about earlier, I don't think that's a great idea now. I don't want to intrude on any real time slots. Then again,
there's nothing yet.
There's nothing on Sundays, but I can't really do Sundays or Wednesdays myself because they're bad days for me personally.
I work all weekend.
It's just I just want to know if anyone has any suggestions on when I could host it. As for movies and stuff, I could probably put up a poll in the announcements or whatever, simple stuff, and we're just gonna be watching movies.
I have an idea.
By all means.
Just throwing this out there for your thing. Could we come up with? I'll talk to Rod. Oh, Rod, you're here. Are you there? You're lighting up, and I don't hear a sound.
Hi, God, what do you want?
Wow.
So
How
I'm asking.
wonderfully masculine you sound.
So I'll talk to Rod after, but she's really good with forms and stuff. What I'm thinking is we'll create a form. You know how when you fill out a job, when you fill out a job application and you fill out a form based on your availability. I can work nights, days, during each day.
Yep.
I think we should come out with a form for movie night and try to get everyone to sign it. And then I can hear you now. Yeah. How easy would it be to come up with an availability form for everyone to sign so we could compile the data and figure out when people are available and try to average out what would be the most beneficial to have movie night, what time, what day?
If I may, I was actually going to say, Goth, you might want to just look into possibly doing just a spreadsheet, because that's what I was going to do with Guild Wars too. Just have people fill it out, that way it's a consistent thing.
There'll be a lot of data entry and a lot of people's hands in one sheet. You mean just put the sheet up and have people be able to edit it? Can we do that on Discord?
Yeah. You would just do that through a Google Doc. Docs.google.com. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes and no. I mean, we definitely could have that. Have everyone just put a name column on the left, and then Monday through or Sunday through Saturday, and then day and what time. Obviously, it's going to be at night. So what time at night are you available, and are you interested? And then just compile. But either way, I think that's what we should do, Pato, because I think that would give you a day. You know what I mean? And we'll just make it even for everyone, rather than getting 20 people's opinion and going off of that. At least give everyone the next week or two. Gives you time to figure everything out, and then we can get that document together, compile what's the best day, and be nice for everyone, and then just do it on that day and make adjustments monthly from there based on what changes. I think would be a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, my event doesn't have to be weekly. I know there was interest. I would be interested, and I just said, you know what, I'll do it because no one else is doing it. It's just that with Warframe Night, Monster Hunter Night, most of the nights that I'm available for a good amount of time, I'm already hosting things. So here's another third event I'm gonna add to my plate. Um, I do appreciate the idea. I just don't know if I still have to host it. So right off the bat, it's more like my schedule that we need to figure out first, and then everyone else's.
So yeah, you figure out what you're available for, and then put out a list saying, "Are you guys available these nights?" And if not, they just say no. You know what I mean?
Right.
So figure that out ASAP. I just think it would be nice for everyone to be able to put what they're available for and what's their interest level, because
I won't stretch Fireside any longer than I have. Vest. I'm gonna try to figure things out. I might make an announcement to figure things out with other people that might be interested, and then we'll go from there. Thanks, Scott.
Sounds good. Anybody have
Yeah, no problem.
any quick final thoughts before we end the stream?
No, sir.
All right, looks like no. All right, thank you, anybody watching the stream and to the VOD. And thank you guys for showing up. We'll see you next week.